Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. Boom. And we're live. We have made it. We made it early this time. I want to make that clear. We're 2 minutes early, Teague. So if you are on here watching, we're early. No sweat off my shoulders and sack right there. That's for sure. So, hey, man, we are joined. We have a great guest. I'm very excited to have you on. We have state champ, Fargo All-American, Tristan Steldt. Dude, how you doing, man? How's Fennimore treating you this year?
It's been good.
Yeah.
Getting geared up as always around this time of year. It's always fun.
Yeah.
The football players are getting into wrestling mode, and everyone's kind of getting into wrestling mode. So
it's
year again. So in a community like ours, that's really small. It's like everyone's all ready to go, and
that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch you guys. I know you guys still have a pretty stacked lineup coming back, and you guys even have some young guys that are pretty good. We were kind of talking about some of that last night. We're here to talk about you, right? We talk about everything from the beginning to now. So let's kind of dig in a little bit. And I know you guys, I mean, obviously some of you younger guys, we're not going to have a 2-hour show unless you just have all these stories to pull out of your pocket from everything. And you tell all the stories you want about whoever you want. But I want to start where you started. Where were you born in Fennimore? Is that your hometown? Were you born and raised? Where did you start?
No. So, very early in my life, I was my parents were trying to kind of figure out a place where they were going to settle down, and my dad was going to start his coaching career and whatnot. And that place ended up actually being Ellsworth, Wisconsin.
Okay.
So when I was very young, I think ever since kindergarten to probably, I want to say that I left in second grade, I was there. I think we lived there for 7 years. So my childhood up to second grade, and it was awesome. I think that Ellsworth was, at the time was probably one of the best teams in the state for sure. I think my dad took it over in 2012. I think they won the state title pretty handily in D2. Okay. And before that, Jack Radeball had a very good program up there. So on a wrestling standpoint, Ellsworth at the time was honestly the place to be. So it was great for a young kid. So
I heard rumors about Ellsworth, because I remember we took Liam out to a tournament out there, youth tournament back when he was little. And I heard all this, talk about Ellsworth, and you walk in there, cause I didn't know, now it's not something you hear a lot about, but then you go into the school and you see all the awards. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. It is a real deal. So, where were your beginnings? Did you start wrestling when you were in Ellsworth? Is that how did that all roll out for you? When did sports in general start for you?
Yeah. So when I was very young, my dad had me in probably every sport that you could imagine. I was t-ball, football, flag football, wrestling, soccer. I was doing it all. And
that's awesome.
I remember, I think I would wrestle like literally maybe 6 matches all year when I was young. My dad would send me out there in shorts and a t-shirt. My t-shirt was all ripped up. I just was out there having fun with my buddies. And
that's awesome.
So really the only exposure I ever had to the sport when I was really young, like around the 4 or 5 age, was just my dad bringing me into the wrestling room with the high school guys and just watching them and kind of giving me that idol or that role model and what I wanted to do when I was older. So I think with my wrestling in Ellsworth, it was all just kind of falling in love with the sport and just being around great people. I think.
So with your dad though, I mean, with him being coaching and into athletics, did you feel like you were at any point was it like, well, no, this is too much. Like I don't want to wrestle. Did you think you didn't want to wrestle at any point?
No, not at all. I think
that's awesome.
I'll have to say when the wrestlers that my dad had up there when I was very young were very special. Jens Lantz. Runs Victory now. I think he was like ranked 3rd in the country.
Yeah.
In Ellsworth. There's plenty of other guys, Logan Kemmer.
Yep.
Tristan Mueller. I can go on. Like there's just so many guys that were really good.
Yeah.
And it was just cool to see them always compete and in wrestling and just in the practice room, being a young kid. I think if you really want to love wrestling, I think that's honestly the best way.
You were definitely surrounded by some dudes that loved wrestling. Yeah, that's for sure. So knowing that you came up in that, was it then hard for you to maybe want to do other sports? Were you kind of, because Liam got, like, we tried to get him in soccer, baseball. He's like, I'm missing wrestling practice. I don't even want to be here right now, you know? Like,
no, yeah, for a number of years that my dad was always questioning, well, he would always tell me, he said, Tristan, just because I was a wrestler doesn't mean you have to be a wrestler. And so I played baseball, I played football. I played football up until just last year. I was the quarterback on my varsity team.
Nice.
And I did a bunch of sports, but I knew at the end of the day that I really wanted, I told my dad all the time, I said I wanted to be a Division I wrestler. And so at some point, you know, you kind of just devote yourself to that. So I think with what I really wanted, I think other sports are fun. Like I always thought that, well, baseball might be more enjoyable than wrestling at some points, but I think that it's a love for a sport that at the end of the day really determines what I want.
And wrestling takes you to some pretty special places, not only just where you go to, but like, I mean, just the people that you're surrounded by, you know, in the environment that you get to be around when you're around like a tight team, you know, things like that. It's I find it as much as I sucked at it when I was in high school and stuff. That's why soccer was my gig, but wrestling was different. Like, even though I was only on that team, I was that high school guy. I was dedicated to soccer, but I was in wrestling during the season, but it was a tight team, you know? And so knowing that you kind of came up in that environment, where were your parents? We already know your parents were supportive. We know that the support group was there. So we know there wasn't like any real, like, you know, kind of, I don't know, weirdness, I guess, as far as I would be concerned as a parent. Your dad knew what he was doing. He was a coach, right? So you grew up with some great guys around. Did you feel pressure when you were younger? I mean, right now it's a little different. I mean, obviously your dad's kind of, you know, he's in the background helping a little bit, but kind of keeping the distance. We're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But just as you're little, were there any kind of instances or no?
There was never any pressure to achieve anything in the sport of wrestling or even really to go out for wrestling. I think my dad really left it up for me and what I wanted to do and what I loved. And I mean, there's probably something to say with my dad being a Division I wrestler at Wisconsin and then a coach. I mean, it's probably bound to happen that the son's going to fall in love with the same sport that he did.
You hope. Yep.
But I know it might be something in our blood or something. I don't know.
I think it is. Because, well, let's look at your uncle. Let's talk about that one. It's a little bit of a Greco dude. But so with that being said, so we've created that. We know the foundation you have. As you were growing up in wrestling, as you started to, let's say, getting into grade school, what were some of the more notable moments for you as just a tyke, a little guy that you can kind of remember, whether it was winning like one big match or a tournament? What was something that really kind of stuck out in your mind from being little?
Well, ever since I was young, I've always been competitive in everything I've ever did. I've always been that one guy that takes gym class maybe a little bit too seriously. I may be the one kid that says something that they might regret later, but it's just in the heat of the moment, they're just being competitive. Yep. I think out of any sport, I think wrestling, and even at a young age, wrestling, there's nothing more competitive than wrestling than trying to take another guy down the same weight as you. It's like a meaning of like cardio and strength. Yeah, it's really, I think, the most competitive sport out there when it comes to
hands down.
Just your individual self. So, I mean, I think that's honestly probably one of the biggest reasons why I chose wrestling, is just because I was just so competitive. I loved competing, and I also loved the art of wrestling. I think it's always fun to go roll around and
hands down an art. That's for sure. Hands down. So what was the biggest moment from when you were a kid?
I honestly can't really, there's not really a specific moment that I was like, yeah, this is it. I think it was more just a build up over time. I remember when I was young, I think I was in like first or second grade. The video's still out on YouTube. I was wrestling at my first freestyle Greco tournament ever.
Okay.
And, I've never done any Greco practice. I've never done really any freestyle practice. My dad just signed me up and we went. Yeah. And I remember I hit this insane head throw.
Yeah.
For 5 points. And I remember I was like, and I ended up actually losing the match like 18-17.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a wild match.
Oh man, yeah.
I remember after that, I think picking up and slamming the kid was like, I think that was a moment. And
good.
And yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, that's something I want to do.
When you break someone's will, it's interesting because I mean, I don't think I broke his asthma attack. I made him have an asthma attack, but I didn't break anybody's will really. So watching it as you're coaching and watching you guys, especially, now that we've seen so many of you guys grow, at least I have, from little to now, and watching you guys progress, and then watching some of these guys that you beat and just watching them after the match. Like I can remember when you guys were, like you were saying, like, there's not a lot that sticks out, but there are wins and losses. And like now you guys dominate so much against some of these guys. It's great to see that impact that you guys have had in the sport, but also that it's had on you, and just to watch the growth. So as you started to, you're getting through grade school, coming up into middle school, and you noticed you're getting, a little more advanced than the average Joe, right? Like you kind of felt like you had something going on. So tell us a little bit about that. Where were you going? What kind of tournaments were you at?
Yeah, for sure. So in the before middle school, I was never that good. I was like, I was kind of better than like the local kids. I would always win like the local tournament, but I would never do anything. I would always go to like dominate the Dells and get beat out. I would always go to Northern Plains, get beat out. So, I think it was I want to say it was my 7th grade year. 6th grade year, I was kind of turning it on. I was kind of coming into my own a little bit, but 7th grade year, my dad would take me up to high school practices.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd wrestle like 2 middle school practices down with the middle school team, and I'd wrestle with the high school kids.
Sure.
And so I did that for the whole entire season until actually middle school season was done. I just wrestled full-time high school. So I was pretty much wrestling a lot with the high school team.
Wow. Nice.
And I think when I started doing that, I started realizing how good I could be, because the intensity that the high school goes through and going through that as a 7th grader, you're going to see a lot of gains. So, I think my 7th grade year, that's when I started placing at the more national tournaments. I think I got second at Dominate the Dells. And, I I got second at preseason nationals. And so things kind of started really turning on for me. And then my 8th grade year is really when I started kind of doing some bigger stuff when it comes to rankings, and then just the bigger national tournaments.
So it's interesting because obviously your dad, he was a wrestler, and knowing that he came from, such a wrestling program as Wisconsin, and having to be able to make it there, and be able to be on the team and maintain. So it's interesting. You see a lot of the higher level guys that have kids that, they competed at a higher level. Like, he wasn't saying, you got to go here. We got to go here. We got to get you here. He obviously understood the pace of practice, right? That how much that matters. Did you find that as far as a kid where you saw all your friends kind of going to these tournaments possibly, and you're like, oh, I want to go to that tournament? Was he like, all right, well, I'll send you with those guys? Or he's like, no, just kind of hold on. You're fine. We're doing what we're doing here, kind of thing.
Yeah. So usually when I was young, before middle school, he was a lot very more practice than competition right now.
Yep.
I think he's always had a very bad taste in his mouth when he sees really young kids competing 50 to 60 matches in a span of 4 to 5 months.
Right.
It's just, it burns the kid out.
Yep.
And I think when my dad raised me and how we kind of progressed, it's now, honestly, as a junior in high school, this is when I'm starting to get 100 to 150 matches in a year, and really starting to pound the competition and
and test yourself.
So I think and even building up to middle school, I obviously did more tournaments, but I don't think it was ever more so competition over practice. I think it was practice over competition. Until about high school, and then once you hit about 16 years old, then it's okay, now we have to turn it up a bit.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, obviously, and it pays dividends when you kind of take your time. I remember we made them. It was mainly because of COVID, but we made them we started hitting tournaments. I mean, I made the mistake of starting to take them to a bunch because they're like, when are they going to be back? We don't know.
Yeah.
If we're going to have tournaments again, but I think a lot of what we did was, it was just to go out and get the competition. It wasn't, we always heard, because we surrounded ourselves with some pretty decent people in wrestling, and obviously you guys were as well. It's quality over quantity, right? I mean, you're looking for the competition to push you. So as you got to those competitions, did you find that you're like, oh yeah, this practice pays off, and then you wind up taking it to the room? And I mean, look at Fennimore itself. You guys, I mean, you're doing all right. So there's definitely nothing to shrug about with what you guys have going on. Do you see that kind of echoed in the room too, as you guys practice from year to year, and everybody kind of understands that, obviously state matters. That's the part that matters, right? The rest of them, the duels, to me anyways, that's the practice part for the end. Coaches care about the duels, don't get me wrong, but ultimately you're going through those rankings and all those duels to get to the end, right? Was there ever a time when you guys were, as a family, kind of thinking maybe, your dad didn't want to kind of push you too much, be like, hey, if you don't want to do something like this, you had some injuries, correct?
Yeah, my year I actually tore my ACL, so I was out.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So what was that like?
The injury?
Yes. I mean, what happened?
Absolute nightmare. I
was
think
it really?
The surgery and the recovery and everything was perfect. I think just mentally it just wears on you when you're biting at the bit to get back on the mat, and you're like, they're telling you 6 months, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's half a year.
And you got high school coming up. It's like,
exactly.
Yes.
So my dad had to tell me multiple times, take it slow and let it heal. And I think I ended up coming back actually a little bit early from the 9-month mark. I think because I came back for 2 weeks before regionals, I think.
Okay.
So I did really good with my recovery and was able to fully come back around that time. And then I was good to go for regionals. Obviously, I didn't feel like I was really prepped. I don't think I was where I needed to be in order to maybe run with Gavin Drexler or something like that, or compete for that number one spot in the state. But I think going through that and the adversity that had to come with having an injury like that and then coming back, and I think it really helped me mentally strengthened me. And, I think looking back on it, I wouldn't change anything. So.
Yeah. Well, and then on top of that, again, your dad having the knowledge that he has and just the background that he has is enormous. So it goes hand in hand, I guess, with the success you wound up having. I mean, obviously your sophomore year, winning the state championship. So I think, and I think a lot of people think had freshman year not been dealing with, coming back from an injury, you probably would have too, like that's to me, the type of wrestler that you are. And watching some of the matches that you've had, I can't see. I mean, obviously there's tough guys. You had some tough guys in the weight bracket. There's Liam's looking at the same thing, so, but I think you would have been a very, very close contender. So did you had, what was your freshman year? You still had Zane. What weight did you wrestle at your freshman year?
So, I went down to 138 my freshman year.
That's right. Yeah.
So, I lost to Taryn Riley in the semis. He kind of kicked my butt that night. Had a bad night. It was like 13-1 or something.
Yeah.
And, I wrestled him like 3 times my freshman year, and all 3 of them were regional sectionals, conference sectionals, then state. And he beat me every time. I remember the first time I wrestled in my conference was like 6-0. Then he beat me every time, and then I kind of fell apart at state. I think the atmosphere of it all kind of got to me a little bit in that semi.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that for a minute, because Liam last year having his first year, and there's the pressures of hearing. I mean, you guys have been to national tournaments. You've been in the big arenas, but Liam's like, it's way different. Like it's
for sure,
so much louder down there. He goes, and the people are watching your match because you can tell who they're talking. You can tell who they're yelling at, but also just the enormity of it all, right? Like it's a huge coliseum. So with the type of pressure that comes with that, were you ever in a moment, like you said, you kind of broke down, or as far as in that match goes, but was it something that only hit you in that match, or were you also kind of jittery in these other matches too, and you just kind of you got it done no matter what? But you always have everybody's got some type of butterflies before they start a match, but man, that's a big place.
I think honestly that my freshman year I kind of did it to myself. I psyched myself out.
Sure.
Just as a young kid, you're always thinking, well, I want to be in the state finals, and I want to be in the Grand March. And when you're 14, 15 years old, it's like, you're like, okay, this is my time.
This is it. Yeah.
It's kind of, you're thinking about it in the wrong way, rather than trying to do things within the match. You're thinking about the crowd, and you're thinking about how loud it is. And
right.
I had
warming up too much.
Too. I had slow feet. My feet were stuck in the mud. My dad always told me. So just a bad night. But I'm glad that I was put in that position as a freshman, because it just made it that much more comfortable when I was a sophomore. So
totally. I totally get it. So let's get off the mat for a minute. Do you hunt? Are you a hunter?
Yes, big time.
So I asked that because I know, but as far as with what you hunt, are you strictly deer hunting? Is that all you hunt?
No, we do a lot of bow hunting, and then me and my dad are really big duck hunters. So we really like.
Was there some kind of a comment that Lucas made about the decoys?
He calls me decoy boy. Yeah, he calls me. He thinks I shoot all of his decoys. I think he might be delusional at times. I think he might be the one shooting them.
So let's talk about that guy for a second. Having that for an uncle around, that obviously we have him on here, and he likes to harass kids that wrestle in high school when they start trying to wrestle Greco. So what has he ever tried? And this, Lucas, I hope you're paying attention to this. Has he ever tried to pressure you over to the dark side of Greco? Like, come over here. It's fun over here.
No. I think he's definitely identified what my goal is within the sport. And I think with this past discussions that my dad and him have had, I think they have a pretty good understanding for what each person's trying to accomplish.
Yep.
So it's almost just like he's kind of doing his thing. We're kind of doing our thing, and we don't step on each other's toes about anything. And cool. What he's doing is he just really loves Greco. He does. My dad's always said about Lucas, he just loves picking picking up guys and just slamming them down.
Throwing them down.
That's his love. So
that's right.
So that's what he loves doing, and that's what he specializes in, and we specialize in shooting on legs. So
let's let these guys in on some trade secrets. To you, what's your favorite food right now? What do you got going on that's your favorite, especially when you're coming into the season? What's your favorite thing to eat?
Like you talk like post weigh-in or like
any post and pre. What are you just doing? Are you just drinking water and like an energy bar?
I'll have to say, if I'm on a diet, like if I'm getting down to some weight, definitely smoked salmon. You can't beat it.
Okay.
I went down to 157 for Super 32, which was a pretty good cut for me.
Yeah.
And I think for like 5 to 6 days straight, all 3 meals, I just had broccoli and smoked salmon.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. My mom was like running to the store constantly and just getting smoked salmon.
Mountain Dew. That it? Straight up Mountain Dew?
That's not a fan of Mountain Dew.
That's awesome.
He would not be happy with me if he saw me drinking Mountain Dew.
Not so much. So I know that there are some wrestlers, I won't name names, so I'll make a big generalization, that they sometimes carry, like some guys, like Liam's got a debit card, right? Some of you guys we're trying to help you with finances, so you guys have debit cards. There are some kids who don't use the debit card, they use cash to buy food at the gas station, so their parents don't know what they're buying. Right? And I know you're not going to say it, but it's got to be pretty common, right? Some guys I just need a candy bar.
There's been times where I've taken transactions out at Quick Trip, and my mom's been like, "What are you spending $12 on at Quick Trip?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
Breadsticks and all kinds of candy. So with the season coming up, and like I said, usually these you and I are not going to be talking for an hour and a half because you're a junior in high school, right? You only have so much. But at the same time, though, too, I also want to know, what are your favorite type of wrestling shoes?
Ooh, dang. Well, I've always really wanted a pair of Rulons. I think those are really cool.
They are pretty sick.
My dad used to have a pair of Aggressor ones, and I think those are pretty awesome. But as shoes that I have, I'd probably have to go with the Inflix right now. I just really like the feel of them.
They look pretty slick. They look smooth, you know.
Yeah.
They're pretty nice.
Yeah.
So, where are your plans to go for the next duck hunting? Did you duck hunt this year?
Yeah, I basically any free time on the weekend we go. So, we hunt a lot over by the Mississippi River, and
lucky.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like 45 minutes away. We have a cabin along the river.
Yeah,
we spend a lot of time at. So, it's kind of our outlet, so to speak.
I wish I was by the Mississippi. I mean, we have Lake Michigan over here, but we never really invested much. So we would go to the Horicon Marsh area. But it would get so flooded. Like I got to the point where I literally needed to find private land because I got so annoyed with how many guys are out because they're just goose season's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know? Now with all the birds everywhere, there are plenty of birds flying around, plenty of deer. So here's another question I have for you is when you guys go to state, and you guys are together, you know, as a team, do you guys have any special things you do like to kind of get each other ready for the upcoming duels, things like that, team state wise? What kind of team things do you guys do?
So, well, we always do lights out probably around 10, get good night's sleep, but we're always keeping it light. It's like probably until like 2 hours before the duel, it's kind of, we're all screwing around, just kind of having fun, right?
Yeah, lightening it up. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's really important because you're not thinking about the duel, you're not getting psyched out.
Right, for sure.
For some of those freshmen, they've never experienced something like the barn before. I think the barn is, when it comes to atmosphere for wrestling, I think it's the best.
It's pretty special. Yeah, it's pretty special.
You don't really experience something like the barn. So we do that, and we do. My dad will take us to a park.
Yeah.
In between.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
nice.
Actually, when we're done with the first duel, usually we'll go to a park. We'll eat Jimmy John's. We'll go lay down on the grass, just getting away from the barn and everybody. And
wow. Well, that's a unique. I mean, obviously, again, because your dad is from that. You know, he understands where a lot of that is, where the pressures lie, and you know how to kind of get rid of the pressures. when you're with the team, these guys, you guys have, I don't know, you're all types of message boards, things like that, and crazy commenting. And I know Liam tells me some funny stuff that goes on. What are some of the I guess team building things that you guys do together? Like, what do you guys are, obviously there's a group of guys that may hang out, but do you guys get each other going? Do you guys have your own type of not message board, but just way to get each other going for the season and duel after duel? Because I mean, it's what, 17 events that you guys are going to together. So
no, I think when it comes to the state run, I think everybody our mentality is just come hell or high water, we're going to win state. Like it's going to happen. I think that's our mentality every year, regardless if we have the worst team in the state, regardless if we have the best team in the state. Our mentality every single year, it's just we're going to go dominate. And I think when it comes to that, I think everybody, we do some stuff within like the group chat or whatever. That's like, and in the wrestling room. Really hard in the wrestling room during that time of year. I think. I don't think there's really any high school that's going as hard as us during that time of year. I might be a little bit biased, but we go pretty hard. And I think by that time, everybody's just so ready to go and ready, mentally tuned and physically tuned, that our mentality is just nobody can beat us. And I think
so. Watching you guys last year, because obviously you guys are over on one side, we're over on another side, but just watching like the enormity of the crowd that you guys have, like and we still had a good crowd. Don't get me wrong, kind of a good crowd, but like when you see that big sea of like yellow on the side and everybody's got that yellow on, it was pretty exciting and added to the entire kind of ambiance of the room, and just, but it was crazy because like you said, you can't match that environment. You can't. No. There's nothing. So I remember as a kid when I'm pretty sure, I think it was state that they used to have in there. This is way back though. We're talking, I think it was before I even knew how to wrestle, but it was even then, like seeing and hearing about some of the stories from those, like it was just as loud. So where were some of the more memorable moments of your last year? Besides, we're going to talk about the finals in a second, but what were some of the more memorable moments for you last year, kind of leading up to your state run?
You're saying so.
Any of the matches, anything that were you felt was like this is going to be a great year kind of thing. Obviously, you feel that way in the beginning, but just little matches, little things here and there that did anything kind of so you're like, yep, this is my year.
So you're talking on an individual level?
Yep.
Okay. I think I started. I mean, when I started out the year, I started out pretty strong. I had a bad match in the Cliff Keen. Actually against I think it was he actually ended up winning Iowa State that year. But I beat a kid in the semis that was pretty strong, pretty tough. He was also a state finalist in Iowa. And I think being up, I went from 138 to 160. I think being up, what is that, 3 weight classes or whatever?
That's a lot.
I think I kind of grew into my own there, and I felt really confident.
That's good. So you look confident.
Yeah, going into Cheesehead, ended up 4th there, and I beat some pretty good kids. I beat Willowwheat, actually.
Yep.
Very, very good confidence.
Elusive.
And so we were just, and as for the rest of the team, we were just all wrestling really good, and we were competing well, and everything was kind of falling into place for the season to be really special. I think it was.
So we'll touch here on your finals match. I did watch it, and it was a really good match. I mean, I don't, by no means do I think Hargrove, right? I believe it was Hargrove who wrestled. Mm-hmm. Not for a minute do I think he was a slouch, but it seemed like you kind of had the composure for the most of the match to just not necessarily, I wouldn't say dominate, but beat him. Like you were even when he was putting offense on, it looked like you still had your stuff together, which you did. And obviously you pulled, the win out. So when you're wrestling in a match like that, and we talked about the environment and you hadn't been there the year before, all these other matches culminating into this one match. Tell us how that feels going up and just stepping on the line just before they blow the whistle.
Yeah.
What are you feeling? What are you thinking?
It's 1,000 different emotions, but I think, there's something to say at that time when I stepped on the mat. It was just, I forgot about it. I honestly blacked out. I don't remember anything. I don't remember shooting. I don't remember scoring. I just blacked out. I think at the time I was just really focused on scoring and winning the match.
Yeah.
I do remember the break we had in the middle of the match where
his leg
he hurt his knee or whatever.
Yep.
And then my dad was, during that time, my dad was like, all right, now you're gonna have to turn it up now. Like, he's gonna come back. You better be ready, right?
Right.
And, I think that, and then just all the work that was put into it, right? And then it all kind of pays off. And I think for the type of season we go through, and kind of not to say that Fennimore is different than anybody else, but kind of we have that target on our back, and
you do
kind of being on top. It just feels really good to win. I think it was not personal, but I took it personal. So,
there's a good handful of teams that are in this state that have that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's just one from each division. There's probably a good, 2 or 3 teams possibly per division. And obviously you guys are one of them.
Yeah.
You have us, you have you guys, you have Luxembourg Casco's another one. You have Holman's another one that's always got, a target on their back because they consistently come through every year. With the consistency that you guys have had and I don't think the pressure is necessarily, it is on you guys. Obviously, I mean, as a team, you guys want to win, things like that. But as far as any expectations, you guys have a great crowd assembly. I mean, those guys, like I said, at state was just, they were rocking it. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, the support system in the community is great. Has there ever been a time where you kind of sit back and think of, man, I don't know, I maybe want to stay in Wisconsin? Like, are you starting to hear from colleges, things like that? Like,
sort of like where I want to go to college?
Yeah, no, you don't have to name colleges, but are you starting to you getting some notices?
Yeah, I think I'm very open. That's what I've kind of told every coach that I've talked to so far.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep my options open until honestly my senior year, because I feel like I have a lot more growth. I think this year I have a lot to prove still.
Sure.
Within wrestling.
Yeah.
So I just told every coach I've talked to, I'm like, I don't want to make a decision until I'm ready. And I've been fortunate enough that the ones I have talked to so far are very understanding of that, and they've been completely on board. So it's
awesome. Well, and again, your dad's been in the position before, right? Like he can be that little guy on your shoulder, like, hey, zippity doo dah. You don't need to do anything right now.
Yeah, it's honestly it's been unreal for my dad to be here to go through this. Like, we went on my first Division I visit this past September.
Okay, awesome.
And then my parents being there, and then getting to meet with the coaches and kind of experience, in a way, hard work paying off.
Yeah,
was very, very special. It was
well deserved.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and that's, I mean, we talk about it a lot on here. You guys are making a big decision. So, I mean, knowing that you have the wherewithal to be like, I got time. You got a minute to really kind of figure out, because it's the next 4 or 5 years. What is it, your sophomore years when you actually have to declare as an athlete kind of thing? So,
yeah,
I mean,
you have to set up your eligibility or.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got a minute to really kind of figure it out, but it's a big decision, right? So it's, again, really, really helpful to have someone as your dad and your parents both. I would imagine your mother's just as supportive as your dad is, and has some, voice in what you have going on. But knowing that you had that type of support system and watching your role last year, it's going to be exciting to watch you. So we're watching Fennimore in general. So don't, you folks don't think that we're not watching the whole team, because we are. But what are some of the goals that do you have any kind of a goal that you're setting for yourself this year, other than a state championship? I mean, that's obvious. What kind of goals are you setting for yourself this year?
Yeah, it's more like kind of like a tournament. I really want to win Cheesehead this year.
Okay.
I think
a good one.
I'm in a good position to win Cheesehead. I think I have enough tools, and so
all right.
I think that's definitely, it's definitely a tournament on my mind. We're actually going down to the Kansas Stampede.
I heard. Yeah. That's cool.
So that's another great, really tough tournament that I'd love to win. So just competing very well at those, and then slingshotting into freestyle Greco season where try to earn All-American status for sure in freestyle.
That would be that. I mean, hey, let's do it. I think you guys have a great run. I think Fennimore is going to be, I think they're going to be the team to beat again by you guys. Now, hey, quick question, because I don't pay attention very well. Are you guys moving up a division? Or not till next year? What do you know anything about that?
This year, I know. I think it's if we win it again this year.
Okay.
Then you're bumping up to D2. I don't know if it's set in stone yet.
Right.
I think we have to win again this year in order to move up division. And I think
there's a point system or whatever it is to be able to advance up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't have any doubts that you guys are going to do it, but it'll be fun watching you guys go through. I mean, you got Evan on the team, and you got a whole dude. You got Guy. You're not Guy. You got trying to think of another one, but you guys have a whole slew of guys coming up. I mean, you got a whole roster of guys we just talked about the other night. And obviously my Excel spreadsheet and my brain just shut down. So you guys are going to kill it. I appreciate you being on, bud. We are going to get out of your hair because you probably have some stuff to get going on for the weekend because it's still Saturday, right? And I don't want to take up your whole weekend. So with that being said, we are going to roll out. Everybody, we appreciate you watching. You probably brought all these people, man. I appreciate it. So appreciate you being on. If you have any other time you want to come on, we might have you back on the end of the season, see how things are going. And probably I'm assuming, and I'm going to say that we're going to talk to you after a state championship.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Right. Well,
make a plan for it.
I appreciate it. I'm going to talk to you for a minute yet. Once we're done, we'll go from there. But hey, guys, everybody, peace out. We're done.
All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment, very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.